Hello everyone, I'm Jonathan Little for PokerNews.com, and today we have Pocket Jacks in early position with a 67 big blind stack and a $1,500 buy-in World Series of Poker event. We open it up. The player's second position calls. The button, who only has how many big blinds to start? Not many. 13 big blinds to start, calls, as does the big blind. So we see the flop four ways. It comes 7-5-3, two clubs. It's not the best flop for the Pocket Jacks, but it's what we get. You don't always get what you want in poker or in life. Make sure you understand that. It'll save you a lot of heartache. So, the big blind checks, and now we have to decide if we should bet. So, we have a few options. If we check, the problem with checking is that, let's say I check, under the gun +1 checks, button goes all in, big blind calls or raises. It's a pretty rough spot. If big blind folds, it's nice and easy, we call, but even then, under the gun +1 could call or raise, and that's also pretty dicey. If it checks through, well, there's actually a lot of bad turn cards for me, right? Like any club, any ace, any king, any queen, any 6, any 4, maybe a 7-5-3, like that's almost all the cards. So if almost all the cards are bad for me, then I don't really want to check and let a free card come off. So I think the right player is to bet, and we need to go for a medium sizing, like 1,500. If we go big, like 3,000, what's going to happen then is when we do get called, it's going to be by a strong made hand, which I'm in okay shape against, or a draw, which I'm in okay shape against, but I'm certainly not loving it. Whereas if I instead bet 1,500, now all sorts of marginal made hands that I crush, like 8-7, can just easily call. So I do like 1,500, that is what I do. Now, the player on the button jams, and now, the big blind cold calls. This is a player who I think is on the tighter side. It's important to realize your reads could be wrong. For all I know, this guy's just sitting here trapping with 6-4, or maybe pocket 3s. Maybe he has a flush draw. I'm not sure what's going on. So the question is, do I call or do I re-raise? We can re-raise here. Notice I bet 1,500 and the opponent made it 3,250. It's always very important that you know the stack sizes at work. So often, I see players make a bet in live poker without a clue of what the other people's stack sizes are, and that is a big mistake. If you do not know the stacks of your opponents, realize you are messing up on a consistent basis. And I don't want you messing up on a consistent basis. I want you playing well. And knowing stack sizes is part of playing well. So, in this scenario, if I re-raise, let's say 4,500 or 6,000 or all in, and the big blind sticks around, I'm going to be either against a draw that has plenty of equity, which is not good, or a better made hand, which is not good. And for that reason, I think I just need to call and see what develops. This is really a rough spot because, yes, I do have the best hand here a lot, but if a lot of money goes in the pot, I do not have the best hand. So I like calling. Turns of 4, which is kind of a bummer. Of the players at the table who could randomly have a 6, the big blind is that player, right? If the big blind did have 7-6, 6-5, 6-3, 8-6, he would consider playing all those hands in this manner. So if the opponent does have a 6, obviously he's not folding. And now if he has a hand like pocket 9s and I bet, or ace-7 and I bet, he's just going to easily fold. And those hands are all drawing quite thin. So this is another example of a spot where if I bet and get called, I think I'm in pretty bad shape. Now obviously if our opponent does have a club draw, we let him get there for free sometimes on the river, which is always a bummer. But there really aren't a ton of club draws available. And also, it's pretty likely the opponent's sitting here with a one pair hand that I'm just happy to keep in the pot. So I like checking. If I am going to bet, I think I need to go for a small bet. If you go for a big bet here, that is a big mistake because when you do get called, well, you're going to be against a hand that crushes you. In scenarios like this where you're making somewhat thin value bets, small sizings are almost always ideal because if you bet big, what's going to call a big bet? Really good hands. Yes, you do protect yourself against all the various draws by betting big in exchange for just losing all your money whenever you happen to be against a better made hand, which is possible, right? Like I said, it's very possible to be against a 6 here. River's king of clubs, and now, is there any merit in value betting? Absolutely not. Is there any merit in bluffing? Will anyone fold out 2 pair here? Maybe. Will anyone fold a straight? Obviously not. Will anyone fold a flush? Obviously not. I think we have the best hand here often enough. If our opponent's sitting here with ace-7 or pocket 8s or pocket 9s or ace-5, something like that, we will definitely get a fold if I bet. So I don't need to bluff and I don't need to value bet. So this is a spot where we have a very clear marginal made hand. that can just check behind. And this time we happen to be against 2 flush draws. 10-2 suited. Ooh, that read of tight maybe was very off. It's always rough when your reads are off because that's going to make you do slightly incorrect things. Thinking the opponent was on the tighter side made me think that 10-2 suited wasn't even in his pre-flop range, right? Which, adds many more flush possibilities to his range. That said, if he has 10-2 suited, he could also have lots of 6s, all of them. Maybe did not 6-2, but all the 6s, so... Really, could we have done anything different in this hand? I mean, we could have re-raised the flop, but like I said, I'm not in love with that play because when we do get action, it's going to be against a straight end flush draw, which I'm not happy about, or a set or 2 pair, which I'm not happy about. So I think this is a hand we're just going to lose. But notice, even though we lost this hand, we did lose. Don't forget, we lost a nice pot here. How much did we lose? We started with 64 big blinds, and we ended with 53. So we lost 11 big blinds with an overpair in a weird, dicey, ugly multi-way spot. And that's fine. It's okay to lose 11 big blinds with your pocket jacks. That is going to happen, and it's not really that bad of a result. A lot of people look at situations like this and think, oh, what could I have done to make my opponent fold? But that's usually not the right way of looking at it. You want to look, how do I preserve my stack? And also, how do I give my opponent the opportunity to make mistakes? And notice in this scenario, if our opponent bet the river, we just fold. It's like there's really no way the opponent's going to get paid off here, which is great because they're essentially calling on this flop for this flop bet and raise, drawing relatively thin. Like right here, my opponent really only wins when the club comes in, or if they decide to randomly bluff on a 6 or a 4. But you saw the guy didn't bluff on a pretty great turn for him to bluff, so that's not a spot where the opponent's going to bluff. So really, the opponent's drawing to their flush draw, and if they miss their flush draw, they lose. Which is great, because it means whenever they... we win the majority of the pots here, and that's okay. Sometimes you're going to lose. Don't beat yourself up over it. I just hear so many people out there saying, oh man, he had a flush draw that I could have made fold. I should have gone all in on the flop. Without thinking, what is the opponent's range? The opponent's range is vitally, vitally, vitally important. And thinking in terms of exact hands is how you end up broke. It's how you end up making bad, results-oriented decisions, and I don't want you making bad results-oriented decisions. I want you to succeed at poker long-term. And you do that by thinking about ranges. So that's going to be it for today. I hope you enjoyed this hand for Poker News. Good luck in your games. Have fun. And I'll talk to you next week.